Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And can we have a moment of silence for Netflix Cowboy Bebop? Okay, we're done.
Yeah, I was gonna say, don't give it much.
Yeah, so it's interesting. The media was actually slamming Netflix's live-action Cowboy Bebop. And now they're seemingly eulogizing it.
Right, the critics gave it, I think, worse reviews than the audiences did. And now they're just like, oh, well, how dare they?
How dare you? And how dare you celebrate it got canceled? This is Polygon, right? Netflix canceling Cowboy Bebop after one season wastes all of its promise.
What promise?
This is also Polygon. Cowboy Bebop turns a classic anime into a Saturday morning cartoon.
What promise? That's what I want to know.
The promise of Ed.
No, we know that's not a promise. That's a threat.
That's a threat. The threat of Ed. It was canceled under the threat of Ed. So we're gonna talk about this post-mortem for Cowboy Bebop. The Japanese reacting to it. They're like, yeah, well, of course it got canceled. It was dog shit.
Yeah, some of them said it wasn't too bad, but most of the comments are not glowing.
We've got one of the writers out there actually taking credit for some of the dialogue, the awful dialogue, and being like, how dare you celebrate that this show got canceled?
People lost their jobs.
People lost their jobs. If the Joe Rogan podcast got shut down tomorrow, there would be parties in the street from some of these
people lose their jobs all the time over stuff like usually Twitter outrage mobs or whatever. They go out of their way to cost people their jobs. And that's okay when it's them doing it. Look, I don't want anybody to lose their job, and I understand that sucks. But it's also Hollywood. It was gig to gig anyway. If you didn't have a second season, you're going to lose your job no matter what. It wasn't like it just didn't get renewed. Welcome to the world of Hollywood.
It's a Netflix show.
Are you new?
Yeah, right? It's Netflix. I mean, on top of everything else, it's Netflix, and you should not plan for more than one season.
Right, and they're
Netflix.
acting like people lost their jobs. Oh my God. And it's like most of those people are going to go to other shows.
Yeah, look, I'm sure Netflix isn't going to let these people fall on their ass. Well,
wait, I mean, some of them might not get. Wait, that's probably the whole thing is she's not getting another show, but other people have moved on to other shows or something like that.
People have moved on.
This is the nature of Hollywood, nature of working in a job like this one. It is only as good as long as that job is good for it. It might be one season, it might be 10 seasons. You don't know.
Anyway, so we're gonna talk about this. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. Over 245,000 subs.
Woo-hoo!
Thank you so much for the support. We do talk about anime, we talk about pop culture, talk about Hollywood. We've talked about the live-action Cowboy Bebop. It looked like a train wreck from the trailer, and it turned out to be a train wreck. It actually was in some ways worse than I could have possibly imagined.
Ed.
Oh, God, yeah, we were all spared a whole season full of Ed. And cringy-ass dialogue. So where should we start with this? Where do you want to start with this?
Well, let's start with them talking out both sides of their face with these blogs.
Okay, so we've got Polygon, which actually gave it a bad review. Weirdly enough, a lot of outlets that we thought would have loved this show gave it a bad review. And that's why the Rotten Tomatoes score was so low. But Polygon is like, Netflix canceling Cowboy Bebop after one season wastes all of its promise.
And what was the promise?
Lots of Ed. Can a show get a chance to be good in 2021? No show. And it was, other shows have gotten canceled that weren't that you guys had a hissy about. Or people off shows got fired because you guys had a hissy about them. How many years have we been waiting for more Firefly?
Yeah, that's it. Well, now they're trying to reboot it. Disney wants to reboot it.
Oh, okay. Well,
no, don't let Disney anywhere near it.
I'm just saying. So yeah, this is Polygon. There's some other headlines too. Here's what would have happened in season 2. We'll
they keep
talk
doing
about
that. They keep trying to run with this now. But it's so funny to me because the same critics and these blogs that dinged it are now like, oh no, the poor thing. How wrong of us.
Yep, everything we know about Cowboy Bebop season 2.
No one cares. It's canceled.
It's canceled.
What do you think? You keep posting, people are going to go beg it for them to bring it back? They're not.
Yeah, so what's interesting about this is that they're almost going to be like, well, the show could have been good. It wasn't given a chance. Now the story, and we told you this was going to happen, even though the mainstream media outlets, even though outlets like Polygon and Kotaku, whatever, they all dunked on this show. They're going to be like, it was the alt-right.
Yeah.
The alt-right complained until Netflix canceled it. Because that worked so well for cuties. It's like, no, it's because the show was really expensive and really, really bad.
Yep.
But they're just like, the cancellation of live-action Cowboy Bebop reflects a company following the data. While the show, which was first announced in 2018, opened with a bang on the service's top 10.
Most people watch it. They said dropped off a cliff. People watch it for they watched part of the first episode and they're like, oh shit, and turned it off.
Yep, data from what's on Netflix shows a dramatic departure soon afterward. Both Metacritic and Rotten Tomatoes show a rare alignment between critics and fans, with the scores of both groups coming close to each other in their general dislike. Without critical acclaim, a vocal fandom, or sustained interest in keeping the show a mega hit, it's easy to see how it was game, set, and match. The departure is still stunning, given how much Netflix poured into its promotional efforts. No, the pendulum is swinging. Look, in the last just 2 weeks, I have seen so many companies walking back bad decisions.
Right, and plus, let's be honest here, doing live action adaptations of things like Cowboy Bebop and anime doesn't usually work out that well.
No, it doesn't. It's so weird though. I had a friend send me a link that, the comics aren't even out yet. They don't even come out until January. So they're going to have a whole comic series based on this show, which has already been canceled. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Good luck marketing that shit.
That's true.
That's going to hit the quarter bin. So it's just like, I can't believe they're eulogizing this. I think it's because it's people are still interested in the train wreck that was this show, but in 6 months from now, nobody's going to remember.
Well, that and you people screaming on Twitter.
Yeah. Well, okay. So should we go there?
Let's go there.
Let's go there. Let's talk about the screaming on Twitter. So this is, and do not contact any of these people.
Nope.
This is Naomi Markman, who worked on the show, was a writer on the show.
As a script person. She explains later what her job was.
Yeah, but she is not happy that you're happy that this show has been canceled. My dear troll friends, you do realize that literally hundreds of people lost their jobs today, right?
Well, that happens every day in a lot of industries.
Jobs we loved and cared about were going to be emotional. Also, most, if not all of us, found out today with the public.
Okay, now I will give her that. That's shit.
Shitty.
I will give her that completely. This keeps happening with Hollywood. It's cowardly and it's bullshit. If you're going to get rid of some people and you're going to fire them off a show or you're going to cancel a show, you need to let the people know. But they don't. And we saw this like Gina Carano and other people too. They didn't let them have any notice, and that's not okay.
No, and that seems to be par for the course. I think in a case like this, I think they should, and I'm being honest, I don't care what show it is or whatever, how much backlash. I think the company should at least send out an email and say, hey, guess what? We're not making any more.
Right. But the thing is, too, the problem with something like this, which is like a gig with this gig economy type deal, is that you're not guaranteed anything beyond what they have already had you do. Yeah. You could even be writing a second season, doesn't mean that they're going to actually push it through. That is the nature of this industry. So the idea that because, we lost our job, well, you're going to after season 1 if it wasn't renewed anyway.
This is just so memeable, though. Just because you don't like the food at a restaurant doesn't mean you would celebrate it when it closes down. You wouldn't mock the waiters or chefs. I beg of you to touch some grass and give someone you love a hug.
Because they shut down Cowboy Bebop.
Because they shut down Cowboy Bebop. Yeah,
this is also the person that said Cowboy Bebop doesn't like cops. So,
Yeah, that's true. My entire life was turned upside down in less than 12 hours ago with hundreds of my dearest peers. Consider having a GD ounce of compassion or empathy. No, I think that sucks. I think it does suck.
Well, I'm not going to go into it, but I went and checked some of her tweets. Somebody shouldn't be telling people to have empathy. When I saw it, she doesn't have empathy for certain groups of people.
Yeah.
So you have empathy for her, but that's across the board. Empathy is relevant apparently.
Yeah, so again, this is just kind of like one of those things where I'm saying on both sides. I think that, it's not good when people lose jobs unless it is for, like, quote unquote, your side, then it becomes a win.
Right. If this was something that they thought they were really up against and they hated this, they'd be like cheering for it. Not necessarily her particularly, but just in general. But I want to bring up this before we go to that. So people keep talking about how bad the dialogue in this movie is. You have a couple examples of how bad it is. I mean, Vice brought it up.
Welcome to the ouch, motherfuckers.
Which is not something Faye would say. And then, like, here are some ones you love.
Yeah, I love this. You'll never know true power until you've tasted the testicles of a man who has wronged you.
Ew.
And this classic right here. Sounds to me like blackmail. Damn right it is, because Jet, you are black and you are male.
God.
Yeah, and she does take responsibility.
Well, people keep talking. Vice keeps talking about how bad the dialogue is. We'll get to that first. And they're comparing it to like Josh Wheaton and stuff like that. Things he had in Buffy and different shows. But they're talking about Whedon speak. And then here's some of the ones they have here. Hey, Dick Hole, Faye says, super cool accommodations, but do you think you could handcuff me to a bigger, more disgusting toilet? 'Cause that'd be great.
Yeah.
They said Faye Valentine was the one in particular that they really missed on.
Oh, God, she was awful. I actually, look, and I said, in our review, I said, the first episode, I was like, okay, the first like 15, 20 minutes, I'm like, yeah, it's a little cheesy, but it's kind of like, Speed Racer done by Tarantino. It's not terrible. I'll give it a chance. I don't hate it yet. And then Faye showed up. I'm like, oh, shut her up. Shut her up.
They're saying here that the thing about the original Bebop was that it wasn't devoid of humor, but the humor came from the characters, sight gags, then one-liners. And on here they have all kinds of one-liners like, hey, do you know what I got last time I was on TJ? Spike says, herpes. Jet replies laughing, haha, stab. And I was just buying a Cheerio. That's the first episode. But I'm just like, they go on about it. So you're like, where the hell does this bad writing come from?
Thingy, or stuff in place of more descriptive terms.
So they were talking about where this stuff comes from, and it's funny because, not throw shade at this one person, but she's out there, screaming the loudest. They're talking about being a script coordinator, okay? And what people ask, what does a script coordinator do? I answer basically any questions about the script, story points, backstory, dialogue, etc. Basically, if it's on the paper or the show Bible, I know it. I track it. I track everything. I proof every script, and not just for spelling, grammar, but also for continuity of story, timeline, character, language, etc. So they have to make sure that the characters, they're saying something to say and all that stuff. So I just thought it was kind of funny.
Yeah.
So obviously, there was more than one writer on this. It's not just her fault.
Right. But that's the mindset.
I know, and it's not good writing. And they're like, why is this failing? And then, this person's out there attacking people for not liking it again. And then telling people that they have no empathy. People lost their jobs and what terrible people they are for not liking the show. Because you didn't like the show, people lost their jobs. Well, what are people supposed to do? Go love a show and watch it if they hate it just so you have a job?
Yeah.
If it isn't flying, it isn't flying. Maybe you can move on to another project that will be more suited to something that people will like, and maybe that one will do phenomenal. You'll get 10 seasons out of it.
Probably not, though.
Probably not, but I'm just saying.
Look, this is the mindset of current year Hollywood.
And streaming services especially.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, a lot of these shows don't last, and we've said before that.
Especially Netflix.
Oh, especially Netflix. Like, if you're on Netflix and they give you the green light for 10 episodes, you better tell your story in those 10 episodes. Mm-hmm. So I think at the end of Cowboy Bebop live action, I think Spike actually dies. Now, since we're not getting a second season, Ed shows up and he's like, fuck me and fuck my life, and he just dies. Mm-hmm. The end.
Well, I think most people would die at that point. Just like, let me out of this thing. I'm just like, look, I get it. I get where they're coming from. They're upset, so they're lashing out. I get that. I totally do. I understand it. But I think it's a bad look.
Yeah, what happens is when you're out there complaining about it on social media, other studios are going to look at you and be like, God, what a whiny bitch. Mm-hmm. Are you going to, and they go out there and they start to try to like strong arm the studios into doing this or that. And they're also going to look at and be like, oh, you're the one who made all the cringy dialogue or greenlit all the cringy dialogue in that train wreck of a show and probably cost Netflix millions and millions of dollars. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're not going to hire you.
I don't think it was just that person, but I'm just like, it's just funny to us because we're watching this in real time, and we're watching the same people who tanked it, mostly the critics tanked it before the audiences did, now trying to about face it because of tweets from this person, like, a lot of people lost their jobs and you're dancing in the end zone. It's like, but again, if the situation was reversed and it was a show they didn't like for whatever reason, like if Dave Chappelle and all the people who worked on his shows got fired tomorrow and they'd be dancing in the end zone. They'd be like, ha ha ha, serves you right. They wouldn't care about all the people that worked on the show, the hundreds of people that might be involved in some way or another that now don't have a job. You know what I mean? I just think it just depends on the day. And we all have to look at that, even, when you're covering this stuff and realize that, it doesn't impact a lot of people, and sometimes it's not always their fault.
Yeah, and there are a lot of people that aren't motor mouths on social media that get caught up in these nets too.
Right. But that's nature. But again, it's the nature of the industry.
Yeah.
That's what I don't get. I'm like, this going into it.
unless you're salaried, unless you're on payroll and you're salaried or whatever, you work for Disney was a little bit different back in the day. Now I think they hire more people kind of movie to movie, gig to gig, but it used to be you were like a staff animator.
Right.
You worked on, you worked there for decades. Now it's like, okay, you worked on this movie and boom, you're out the door.
Right. You never guaranteed anything beyond the first season unless they told you flat out in writing, we're doing this many. And even then, if they decide to pull the plug on it, there's a lot of times there's an out clause they can pull it on. It's just what it is. And most people just like, okay, well, I'll go find something else. But trying to shame the audience and people who didn't like it, being like, shame on you because you didn't like my catchy dialogue. People lost their jobs. I'm like, it still turns out that no one liked the show. It united the critics and the fans in dislike.
Why is that always the go-to? Because it's like, I don't understand. Like you said, it's if it was the shoe was on the other foot, they would be delighted that people they didn't like lost their job, lost their lives in some cases.
It's a double standard.
I mean, talking about Joe Rogan, I remember when he got COVID, people were actually actively rooting for him to die.
Oh, I've seen that with other people, which I would never agree with. I don't care if I like you or don't like you. I don't care if you're a shitty person who sent me nasty messages or whatever. I would not root for you to die.
No.
Because that's just, because that just shows me what a shitty person you are.
Games Radar. If you've already seen Cowboy Bebop, check out our list of the best Netflix shows you can stream right now. Well, the live action one is not one of them. Now, one of the good things to come out of this is you can watch the anime again.
Yeah, that's true. We'll watch the anime.
The vastly superior anime. But this is a bad idea. And I'm like, Netflix, please turn back from One Piece. Like, don't do this. Like, I think One Piece is actually less adaptable than Cowboy Bebop. At least Cowboy Bebop was somewhat grounded in reality. One Piece is batshit crazy, and I don't think it's going to work.
I don't know. Maybe because it's batshit crazy, it might work. Who the hell knows? I'm just tired of this whole idea that if something doesn't do well, it's not because you did something bad or you didn't do you didn't do your job well, or maybe something you didn't make right choices. It's everybody else's fault. It's a place we're having meltdowns over it.
So let's talk about the Japanese reacting to it, because they really don't have a dog in this political fight
no,
anyway.
And again, Cowboy Bebop was really popular here, but it was not, I don't think, incredibly popular in Japan.
No.
It's my knowledge.
Yeah, it was.
Understanding.
It wasn't as popular. I don't think it was as popular in Japan as it was over here. I think because it is kind of Western. I mean, I could be wrong on that, but it definitely blew up here in the States because it had more of a Western vibe to it. From
other things we've done and talking to people, I don't think it was as big over there as it was over here. So here are some of the things that they pulled of comments.
Expected. Live action adaptations aren't necessary.
Amen.
It's because there was an old dude.
Odd dude.
There was an odd dude cosplaying. There was nothing appealing.
Oh, shit.
I wonder why, because it was enjoyable.
Okay, someone liked it.
Netflix original anime and dramas are not interesting. However, I do like Amazon Prime. Well, in the first place, you'd say watch the anime instead of watching the live action adaptation.
I would agree with that.
Japan's anime isn't designed for live action.
I would also agree with that.
I had no idea they made this. Looks interesting. Well, it's over.
We thought so. Well, we didn't think so, but we watched one episode. That was enough.
It seemed even the foreigners mocked it. No shit. Why did they think of doing live action? It was actually pretty good. I guess international fans weren't into it. It would be better to make a new anime.
Agreed.
There was respect for the original anime. You can't take an anime as is and adapt it to live action because there are all these uncomfortable feelings when anime is adapted into live action.
It looks like a game of cosplay.
Yeah, they should stop doing live action adaptation. When Keanu got... Actually, he would have been great for Spike.
Yeah, wasn't that a while ago they were talking about having him do it?
He's been attached to, like, every anime thing ever. Like, he was going to be in Akira. He was going to be Kaneda at one point. But they missed the window by, like, 20 years. They needed to get him, like, 20 years ago.
Well, here, there's zero sense of speed in the action scenes. Netflix's productions go to die.
You can't say that. It's going to hurt people's feelings who just lost their jobs. How dare you, Japan? It felt crude, like the adaptation of Ghost in the Shell.
Foreigners are sure quick at cutting their losses, huh?
Oh. I always thought about half of Bebop's popularity was because of the tank opening. That's not untrue.
Yeah, a lot of people who know the song who never watch the show. It goes on and on. But, I mean, there's some people who liked it, but the majority of them are like, what the hell were they thinking? I just think it's funny. It is what it is. It's scrapped. Wait, he's like a regular person?
The main star seemed too much like a regular person. That was decided quickly.
Yes.
I love that. I can just see a Japanese person be like, that was decided quickly.
And it was so hyped up, and yet this. So anyway,
that needs to be a T-shirt. And it was so hyped up.
That could work for so many situations. You go to a restaurant, it was so hyped up, then this. You meet somebody and have sex, it was so hyped up, then this. It could apply to so many different things.
Remake it with Keanu.
I don't know. It's just all over the place. But the other day, it's been canceled. It didn't even make it a month before they canceled it for any further. Apparently, they were being paid to work on it. I thought they were doing a season 2 because they said, we've seen the scripts for season 2. Don't count your chickens before they hatch. This is Hollywood. Things change you always have to wait till the audience sees it and sees how it performs. And that's going to determine.
Well, it's kind of sad too, because a lot of the people getting into Hollywood, they think that this is like, okay, I made it. I broke into Hollywood.
For one gig.
For one gig. So I'm gonna work the Hollywood job. I'm gonna go to the movie factory 9 to 5. I'm gonna get my watch. Like, I'm thinking there is a certain comic book creator who I shall not name because I don't want people harassing this particular creator. But this creator got a series picked up by Sci-Fi. And it only lasted like 10 episodes. Mm-hmm. And this creator was rubbing it in everybody's faces that they got this Hollywood deal. And, screw you, losers. I'm going to Hollywood, right? And now this same creator is out there on GoFundMe looking for people to pay their bills every month.
Right.
How quickly it changes.
Right. It is the nature of what this industry is. And it's the same for comics. Yep. You could be on like 3 books. Doesn't mean you're going to be on the next, after that's over. Doesn't mean you're going to have another one. Or they cancel it partway through.
Look at all the creators that even 10, 15 years ago were like the hottest thing in the industry, and now they can't get work.
Right. This is the nature of the beast. Music, any kind of entertainment, anything. This is what happens. YouTube, all of it.
Yep.
And, there's the fact that you're trying to shame people for not liking it is bullshit. That's not a really fair comparison. A restaurant compared to this kind of thing, because at a restaurant, they're not expecting to be, closed tomorrow, something like a sandwich. You know what I mean? And, if everything on the menu sucks, they'll close it down. And people get laid off all the time for that reason as well. Where's all the tears for that? I'm just like, and Hollywood, you need to stop just firing people like when they hear it in the news. Could you imagine you had a job for 20 years and you don't know you're fired till you hear it in the news?
Yeah, that is cowardly. That's gutless. I mean, geez, I've had jobs before where I knew a layoff was coming, and I flat asked my boss. I mean, sometimes they can't tell you because they don't know exactly.
You asked the guy on Friday and they gave you the slip on Monday.
Yeah, I'm like, I was trying to be like, hey, we're good, right? Because I knew I had access to the financials. And I'm like, oh, things aren't looking too good. I better make sure I'm going to be here for a while. And I asked him, oh yeah, everything's fine, everything's great. We'll talk Monday. It's like, now he took off Monday and had somebody else lay me off. Mm-hmm. Along with a whole bunch of other people.
Right, but it is what it is, especially in the way the world is today. Again, don't harass anyone. I'm only bringing it up to point out, how these people are blaming it on everyone else again. But the media is like trying to bounce back after saying it was a shit show. Now like, but season 2 is supposed to be better. Well, you trying to retroactively bring it back season 2? I wouldn't recommend it Netflix. People don't like the first season.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, 10 episodes of Ed, 10 hours of live action Ed. I couldn't stand Ed for 10 seconds. I was just thinking, you were talking about restaurants. I was like, they'd be real happy if the Bigot Sandwich Company went out of business.
Right. Yeah.
Where are you going to get your bigoted sandwich?
But depends what you
all white bread.
I was like, it depends anymore. Because what was considered fine like 2 hours ago might be bigot today. You don't know.
Oh, that sounds like a turn of the century. Like they had like Sunshine Biscuits. It's like the Bigoted Bread Company.
There you go.
Anyway.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I don't know either. I think it's time to wrap this up.
Oh, yeah, it was a while ago.
Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We'll talk later.
Bye.